Welcome back, everybody. Thanks for joining me for this special Allan Holdsworth lesson video. I was kind of against doing any Synthaxe tunes because I'm not entirely confident on them. This one I am a bit. It's Secrets off the Secrets album. Now, transcribing and doing lesson videos for Synthaxe tunes are really tough because for people that might not be familiar with what the Synthaxe is just like a MIDI controller that's for guitar players. So if you know how to play the guitar, not the keyboard, you can use all those cool keyboard synth sounds, but play them on the guitar. But because of the way that the Synthaxe is designed, there are some inherent issues with it, especially trying to transpose them for regular standard guitar. One of the reasons is you can actually change the tuning of the guitar on the fly. So there were a couple of tunes that Allan played tuned in fifths, Non-Brewed Condiment, Looking Glass, that are in fifths tuning. But he ended up taking those tunes and transposing them to a guitar in standard. But there are some tunes, I haven't done any lessons on them for this reason, that actually switch between standard and fifths tuning. I know Endomorph is one, Distance vs. Desire, I believe is another one where it actually just changes. You can just change from fifths to standard on the fly, which you can't really do on a normal guitar unless you have some sort of MIDI pickup or something like that. Other issues that the Synthaxe has when transcribing the music is really trying to get those voicings down, because you can use multiple patches and tune them even however you want, but a lot of times Allan will like to use the same patch but use that patch an octave lower, so it sounds really big and full, but it makes trying to figure out what that exact voicing is very difficult. So you might get the essence of the chord, but the actual voicing of it could be really challenging. He does that pretty frequently. Another challenge that the Synthaxe actually has is all the frets are really the same distance apart. Now, they're not this wide like on the first fret. They're probably somewhere between the 7th and 9th fret distance. If anyone actually has a Synthaxe and can tell me what that distance is, that would help out a lot. But because all the frets are the same distance apart, and the neck looks very long, but a lot of times you can play much higher on the neck very easily. Now, trying to do that on a regular guitar is really tough because you can't really get that same reach up there. So there are a multitude of issues why transcribing Synthaxe tunes are really difficult. There are a few that are just in plain standard, and this would be one of them where I think Allan could have played this live if he wanted to, and maybe have someone like Steve Hunt do the vocal melody on the keyboards. But in any case, I'm doing this because a couple of guitar players that I respect had requested it, and I know a lot of people want to hear this. So I figured I'll give it a shot. If it goes well, there are a couple of other Synthaxe tunes that you can actually play on guitar. Some of the other ones, like MacMan or Clowns, there are a lot of layering that's going on, and it's really tough to be able to teach, because it's not just chord to chord to chord like in other Allan tunes. It's more these soundscapes, and then there's a section in the middle that has chords in it that's soloing over that is teachable, but the rest really can't be. So anyway, enough chatter. If you want to learn this tune, here you go. Secrets.
There will be 1,000 left inside.
So as I might have mentioned before, one of the reasons that made me pretty confident in wanting to teach this was a lot of the voicings that are in this song I have seen Allan play and are in other tunes. So when I have the opportunity for a new voicing, I'll just give a shout out to what other song I've seen it in, if I can remember off the top of my head. So the structure of the song is actually pretty simple as well. You have your intro part, which is pretty important because that sort of sets the tone for all the other sections. So we have that intro part, then it goes to the solo, which is a variation of the intro part, just extended, and then the outro, which is pretty much like a truncated version of the solo. So really, all you need to know is the solo, and you have all the other parts. But I'm going to do this sectionally anyway. Also, I want to give a shout out to my friends Joe, Britton, Livio, and Andre, because just a few days ago there was a section in here that I was really racking my brain, and it's nice to know that I have like a little group of people. I said to the guitar player of my band, Toriginus, I kind of like it because it's like a peer review. I'll come up with a transcription, and then all my other peers have to sort of sign off on it and see if they hear the same thing, and we're debating about this and that. It's kind of fun if you're a geek like me, but if I could get their stamp of approval, then it makes me feel pretty confident that this is actually what's going on. So, we'll start off with the intro. So the intro of the song, when it first starts, also Allan had said that, I read somewhere, he wanted to write a song where the singing melody was basically like the top line of each chord that he was playing. Now that's pretty much true for all of his songs, but you'll be able to hear it a little bit more, especially how it's played. So the first chord is this F sharp sus2 with an add sharp 11. Now this chord Allan's also used in a few other songs. He uses in Looking Glass is probably the most popular one that I can think of. Where Is One, he's used this for. He's used it for quite a few tunes. So I think he's probably playing it with these fingers, with your third and fourth finger here, because it's easier to play this note up here, the C sharp, with your first finger when you're playing it like this, instead of trying to bar it with your pinky like I am. This stretches a little too much for me, because especially this chord gets moved down. So I'm just going to cheat, at least I consider cheating for myself, using my pinky. So the first chord is an F sharp sus2 add sharp 11. And then it goes to Allan's favorite minor, he calls it a minor 7 in his instructions video, but it's a minor 9 voicing. This is used in Pudwood, used in a ton of songs. It's so many to name that I can't even think of any others off the top of my head. Home, I think it's used in, it's used everywhere. You've already seen this a ton of times in his videos. So, but it's in F, so it's an F minor 9. Then that sus2 sharp 11 chord gets played on D. Then the next chord is this B add 9, or E flat, or D sharp I should say, minor 7 sharp 5. But I would consider this a B major add 9 chord here. Now what's happening is Allan's just playing this, but the vocals are playing the B on the top. So if you want, you can add that as well. Then it goes to C sharp sus2 add sharp 11. And then from here, it goes to this G major 7 voicing. This has been used in Tullio, it's used in Home. He doesn't use this voicing that particularly that often, but he's used it in a few other tunes. So it goes G major 7, and then you move that all the way up to D major 7. And then the last three chords of the intro is this B flat major with an add sharp 11. This chord is used in Zarabeth, but Allan also uses this kind of chord very frequently in other tunes, like in House of Mirrors. It's kind of the same kind of idea. Very similarly structured. Now here's a chord I've only seen Allan use in this song because it's very pedestrian of him, if you want to say that. Very not very exotic. It's just a regular G minor major 7 chord. That's a nice inversion of it, nice voicing. It's real straightforward. It's just unusual that it's so basic in terms of if you're sort of a chord junkie. This is a pretty basic chord. And then the last chord is this D major 7, which I think the first time, this is another chord that Allan uses pretty frequently. I remember the first time I saw this chord was in Things You See. He uses this pretty often, but this gets used in a lot of songs. Tullio. Once again, a lot of times if the chords get used a lot, I can't even remember them because they don't get used that often. So that's the intro. And just to give you an idea what it sounds like, Remember, he's using sort of like a string patch here. I can't do that because I'm just playing a regular guitar. What I'll do is I'll use the volume pedal and I'll try to do like a swelling section of it, and so you can sort of hear how it sounds. So let's hear how it goes. There you go. So that's the intro part. Now that part you'll see again also at the end of the solo section, but the solo section is quite meaty and has all these different little twists and turns, as often Allan songs do. So anyway, here's the whole solo section. Alright, time for the solo section. I like to think of this section as like 3 different parts. There's the beginning of the solo section, which is kind of like a variation of the intro. Then there's a bit of like a free improv section, and then like a completely unique part to the song. And then after that part's over, it goes back into basically the intro part again. So I think of them as sort of those 3 distinct sections, and maybe that'll help you when you're trying to learn it. So the first part of the song, of the solo I should say, starts off the same, is the same way as the intro, but now it's a half step down. So instead of F sharp, sus2, add sharp 11, it's now F. And then goes to E minor 7, I'm sorry, E minor 9. This is where it starts to deviate a little bit. Then it goes down a half step from where you originally were before. Instead of it being D, you're now at C sharp, sus2, add sharp 11. And this is where it deviates. You're playing this D major add 11 chord, D major triad here, and then your 11 up there. If you watch my checking out video, you'll see that I've talked about this chord in there quite frequently. And actually, for me, it's a little bit easier down here than it is all the way up here. So that's the 4th chord. Then it goes to E flat, sus2, add sharp 11. And now it goes to this interesting chord. I had a little bit of trouble trying to figure out what this chord really was. I knew that there was an E in it and there's a G and an A, but I also could have thought it's really the middle note if there's a B or a D in there. I actually think Allan's playing it this way because it makes more physical sense coming from the chord before it. This is an E minor triad with an add 11. So then after that, well, I'll play what I have already. Then you have this interesting sequence. Now, I would call these 2 chords are basically based on the same voicing structure. So some of the chords might have alternate names. I like to think of this first chord as part of this C sharp major 7, but this being the 5th, if you move the 5th down a half step, I would consider this a sharp 11. So I would say that this is a C sharp major 7, sharp 11. Allan uses this chord also enough times. I know he uses it in 0274. I know I haven't done a lesson on that. I know he's used it in other places. I'm kind of blanking out right now, but I totally know. I actually took this chord and used it as like the first chord of my band, one of my band's songs, because I hear it as a major 7 sharp 11, and that's the first chord in the song. So anyway, C sharp major 7 sharp 11, and now since this interval, you're using that same interval structure, I would call this a C11 chord, C dominant 11, because we have a C, an E, and a B flat. So basically have the main ingredients of a C dominant 7 triad without the 5th, but now we're putting the 11 on the bottom. So this would be a C11. You can also think of this chord as a F major 7, sus4. Whatever works for you, but I want to keep that interval structure the same. C sharp major 7, sharp 11, C11, and then this chord. See, now the stretching is going to be really crazy down here, but remember, on the Synthaxe, all the frets are the same distance apart, so these stretches wouldn't be so bad. But because we're playing on an actual guitar where the frets are get wider at the bottom, some of these stretches are going to be tricky. You have this B minor 6/9 chord. This chord is also in Pudwud. He uses it quite frequently. Also, if you take the bass note and you put it on the top, it's the same chord that's in Letters of Marque in the harmonic major section. So anyway, after this chord, you're going to keep your first and third finger basically on the same note, and then you're moving your pinky to E and your middle finger to G. You can think of this chord as a couple of ways. You could think of it as a C sharp diminished with an add flat 9. This chord is kind of similar to the one that we did in Checking Out, the diminished with the add 9. But if you think of E as your root, you have an E minor 13. E, G, your 6 for C sharp, and then your flat 7. So this could be an E minor 13. And then this chord. Yeah, as you can see, this one's really weird. But once again, on the Synthaxe, the frets are closer together, so it's not so bad. We have an F augmented chord with a 6 in it. So I would say that this is a F6 sharp 5 or an F6 augmented chord. This voicing is very similar to one that Allan uses in House of Mirrors. But a lot of times when you've seen Allan play, he loves playing this major 7 sharp 5 voicing. A lot of times he'll take his first finger and move it down a whole step to the 6. Because it belongs to that scale, and he's not thinking of the chord as much as all the other extensions around it. So this is a chord that I've actually seen him use a few times. Let me play up to there. Then you move that whole chord up to C. So now you have a C6 augmented chord. And then, just like I showed before, that F major 7 sharp 5 chord. And then that chord gets moved all the way up to C. And then you have this. You can think of this chord as a couple different ways. As like it's like a minor, another C sharp minor at 11, because you have a C sharp, you have your 1, your flat 7, your flat 3, and the 11 in there. It also has a very suspended kind of quality to it. It's almost like a C suspended with the flat 9 on the bottom, but I don't think anyone ever call it that. It's just much easier to think of it as just a minor 11, C sharp minor 11, or minor add 11, I should say. Well, no, minor 11, because you've got the flat 7 in there. Then it moves to a simple G minor add 9. Let's use this chord in Fred. See. I think it's F sharp. Yeah, I don't play that song that often. It's also in 54, Duncan Terrace. Oops, sorry. I'm trying to play from the other part. And then we move to A flat with the add sharp 11. Just like before, we did it in B flat. But now you're barring with your first finger because Allan's actually playing the 6 on the top as a melody. Then that chord gets moved all the way up to D flat. It's the same exact idea, same exact motif with the 6 on the top. And then E, sus2, add sharp 11, I'm sorry, F, sus2, add sharp 11. But now, instead of going to that E minor 9, you're going to D major 7 in second inversion. This chord is in Tullio. It's in a lot of different things. Allan uses this chord pretty frequently. House of Mirrors. I'm blanking out on other times he uses this chord, but it's used enough. Then E flat major. I'm sorry, E flat sus2 with the sharp 11. And then I think here it's different. You could play this minor with the add 11, E minor with the add 11, but I think he's actually playing E minor 11 with the D in there, just for this. Like I said, you could do it either way. I had a lot of difficulty trying to figure out which is which, but I'm pretty sure in this instance the D is in there. And then it repeats almost the same way with the C sharp, major 7 and sharp 11, C11. And then instead of going to B minor 6/9, you're going to B flat 6/9. So I'll start from this chord, the D flat minor 11. There you go. Then it has your free jazz section. So I'll talk about the next section here. So after about 4 measures of that free jazz section, I don't think there's any real tonality there because the bass isn't really doing anything as far as I remember, and the guitar is not doing anything spectacular. It's just free. You can play whatever you want. This is the section I had the most difficulty with, and once again I thanked my friends for helping me out with this. Pretty much I came up with something, and I wanted to see if my friend Joe came up with something similar, and without him seeing my transcription, and it turned out we got the same thing, so that made me believe that we're probably right, or at least as close to as we're going to get with this. These voicings are very unique to, well, not all of them, but some of them are very unique to this song. I haven't seen them in any other Allan songs, especially the way that they're voiced. The first chord is this E flat major 9. What makes it so strange is that you're playing the outer strings, E flat and F, but then you're playing just the middle 2 strings, the G and the D. That's really unusual for Allan. Not impossible. I mean, I could do it. Anyone could do it. It's not hard. It's just, in terms of a stylistic approach, that's very unusual. I don't think I've seen any other tune where he's done anything like that. People might point out, like, Looking Glass, but the thing about Looking Glass is that Looking Glass was actually tuned in 5ths first, and those chords are actually played on the top 4 strings. But when you move it to standard guitar, everything gets moved around. But this chord is very unique. E flat major 9. And then this chord here, which is a D7 flat 9. I thought the 5th might have been there, but I don't hear it. And like I've said before, usually there's some sort of physical logic to all these chords, the way that they're plucked. So chances are a few chords are going to sort of look the same or be on the same groups of strings because it just makes more sense to pick all of them. So this makes sense for that as well. So the E flat major 9 to D7 flat 9. This is what I had the most trouble on. I could not hear this. I kept on hearing extra notes that were in there. So if anyone has a better suggestion for this or hears something I don't, please let me know. But I'm hearing, after it took a little bit of convincing from my friends, A minor 7. I thought there might have been a D in there, but it's an A minor 7. And then you move the flat 7 to the 6. This is the only type of chord that doesn't fit the sort of physical characteristics of the other chords with the way that it's played. So, and then it goes up to a B flat major 13 chord, or you can think of this as a first inversion G minor add 9. Allan uses this chord also frequently. I know it's used in Letters of Marque. Once again, I'm blanking out on other places that he's used it, but it's definitely letters of mark. It goes up. So flat major 13. Then it goes to an A7 flat 9, just like the same voicing as before. F major 13. Now it goes all the way back up to that first voicing again. E flat major 9 to D7 flat 9. But now instead of A minor 7, you're playing an A dominant 7. So you're just taking the C, moving it to C sharp, and then moving up a half step from C sharp to D to this like sort of 7 sus4. And now you have after that an A flat major 13 chord. Then finally the last little bit of that part is you have this, it's almost like that A major 13, E flat major 9 chord, but the D doesn't seem to be in there. There's a C in there. So this is kind of like an E flat 6/9 chord, because it's E flat major with the 6 and the 9. I think the second time the solo repeats, Allan's playing one of his favorite voicings. This gets used a lot. It's also in Above and Below. It's in 54 Duncan Terrace. It's in a ton of stuff. This E flat 6/9 voicing. But in the first time I hear it, it sounds like that F is much higher up. So I'm hearing this now. And then the final chord being an E7 flat 9. So that whole part should sound like this. And then from here, Allan plays the intro almost exactly the same, the intro part. So if you learned that already, I'm going to fly right through this. Here's where it's a little different. You play the G major 7, but instead of moving all the way up to D, you just use your first finger to play the A on the top. That's it. That's the whole solo, and it repeats again identically. All that. I mean, there might be slight variations in some of the parts, as jazz normally is, but that's really most of everything that's going on. Then after that, we go to the outro, which is basically like the solo, just sort of truncated. So, but there are some details in there, so I'll talk about what's different in this section.
Words hundreds fall, thirsty light turns to wisdom.
So the outro section is, like I said before, like a truncated version of the solo, just with a little bit of variation. And the vocals are back again. So I'm just going to talk about the parts that are different and just play through it. So if I make a few mistakes, just bear with me, because the part's it's tricky for my hand. At this point, Allan would go in the solo to that G minor add 9, but actually he plays that E minor 11, but then uses his first finger to play this A up here. So it's kind of like the flat 13, but I think the way that he's thinking of it is like this A major add 9, just now with the F sharp in there. Once again, talking about the details and all that stuff of the semantics is going to get a little bit more confusing. But he does use this shape up to D, but he doesn't play the A string. So I would say that this is a D major with an add 9, because we have a D, F, D, A, and F sharp, and then an E in there. So I guess D flat minor 11, and then you're adding the flat 13. to D major, add 9, and then the G minor 6 over 9, the one that's in Pud 1. Even this chord gets used a lot. The only chord that I can think of off the top of my head is it's in Texas, but I know it's in a whole bunch of other ones. Really hard to grab. You can see my fingers are all kind of bent again. Then it sort of takes an offshoot of what happens in the intro part. It plays a G major 7, but then it moves all the way up to D, just like before. This is where it's a little different. Then you go to the B flat major, add sharp 11, and then you jump all the way up to F, like that. So that section seems like sounds like this. Yeah, that's kind of tricky to play. And then you have F sus2 with the add sharp 11, and then E minor 11, then back to E flat, sus2 add sharp 11. It's just such a pain in the butt to say. The chord is so easy to play, but just saying the name of it all the time, I keep on stumbling. Goes to E flat sus2 add sharp 11, and then back to that E minor add 11, and then C sharp major 7 sharp 11, and it ends with that motif. It ends like the sort of like the first half of the solo, and that's how the outro sounds. So I'll try to play through that again without messing up too badly. So once again, please bear with me. There it is, Secrets. So as you can see, it's something that pretty much could have been played on guitar, but I guess Allan didn't want to do it for whatever reason. I know he gets very particular about tone and sound and stuff like that, so maybe he felt that guitar it wouldn't translate well to guitar for whatever reason, but it is playable. So that's it. That's my first true Synthaxe tune, and the song, as far as I know, was never played live, so I'm just going by what I'm hearing. And as you transcribe, and this is for all kinds of music you might want to transcribe, as you learn more songs from that person, whoever it may be, you start to learn their little idiosyncrasies and like their sort of flavor and their, you get an idea of what they're doing. So when I did this tune, I already was pretty comfortable with how Allan sort of plays chords and stuff, and there's some sort of logic or some sort of style in there that makes me go, oh, this is definitely something that he would do, because I've seen it in other tunes, especially those voicings. So anyway, I hope you enjoy this, and if it does really well, there are a few others that I'm sure I can do that are in standard that'll translate well. There's one that I would really like to do, but I'm still iffy on it. But like I said, the feedback I get on this will determine if I do any more, because I only have maybe about 10 songs left that I think would be good lessons. Everything else would be either really short lessons or something like this where it's a Synthaxe tune. So those are, in my opinion, the lower priority ones. I'd rather get the ones that I'm pretty confident on out first. Anyway, thanks a lot for joining me. I hope you enjoyed the lesson and learned something, and I'll see you guys, I guess, in a few weeks.